right, we've gone about as long as we can without delving into this. Brian, I'm performing this service for you. Like I said, I've monitored the wrestling of the past week that's been televised while you were betwixt and between. And there was wrestling on Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Friday night, which means Thursday was my favorite day this week. I've jokingly referred to mushrooms. I don't know what that I'm watching half the time on any of these shows, or who could conceivably think it's a good idea to have people do the things they're doing. But we will briefly go over the highlights and the lowlights. Some of this stuff doesn't deserve detail. Did you catch anything from Raw? Any clips of the multi-hour extravaganza on Monday night?
You know what? I don't think I saw any Raw. I don't even think I've heard anything that was on Raw this week. I've heard about other shows, NXT, AEW. I've seen AEW, but I didn't hear too much about Raw.
Well, there was good reason, and then a couple of things. It's a tragedy that you didn't hear about, and I'm going to point people's attention to those. But Becky Lynch was first out. And okay, I like old big-time Becky Lynch's music. She looks like a star. She looks like a heel. She does a good promo. She's got the attitude. She calls herself the Van Goat. And wasn't it just a couple of years ago that she was one of the, if not the most popular star in the business, male or female? Had all the buzz.
That is correct. Yes.
Well, she came out and she looked like a star and she had all the buzz. And then she started talking about Dewdrop. And here comes Dewdrop. Hey, hey, hey. I'm not saying that this girl, I'm sure she's a nice girl. I'm not saying she should quit the whole business, but she doesn't look like a main event star. And once that's where they've lost the people. Even if you've got somebody that's really over, when you just indiscriminately decide, okay, we're going to let everybody on the card interact with our biggest stars, people are going, I like Becky, but fucking Dewdrop? It looks like an indie. And then they interacted for a while, and then here came Bianca Belair. And she, again, no matter what the instance, if she just won the lottery, she comes out smiling and skipping. If the Hindenburg has just crashed on her house, she comes out smiling and skipping.
Come on.
And she's smiling and skipping and doing her Jerry Springer show delivery, being bitchy to both Dewdrop and Becky Lynch. And she officially enters the Rumble, Brian, by saying, and I quote, this is a quote from Bianca Belair, "If I got to throw over every 29 woman over this top rope to win it all, that's what I'm going to do."
All right. Good luck with that.
But then Liv Morgan comes out because she's in the Rumble too. And I wrote, how long can this go? Not the limbo, how low can you go, but how long can this go? She's heelish, but she's knocking Bianca. And then wait a minute, now they've revealed they're going to have a match. So now we have awkward partners in Dewdrop and Becky Lynch who are mad at each other against Bianca and Liv Morgan who ain't happy with each other. And basically, in the end, Dewdrop beat up everybody, including Becky Lynch. And that was the first 20 minutes of the show. They followed that with, everybody grew up thinking Piper's Pit was this massive, long-running talk show, these 20-minute segments, because they remember in their minds this was so great 35 years ago, right? So now, still in the WWE, everybody has an interview segment where they have chairs or they have tables or they have a set or a couch or whatever the fuck. In this case, Kevin Owens has the Kevin Owens show. And by the way, you remember, Brian, that Roddy Piper had Piper's Pit. There was 3-minute segments on a syndicated television, and they got the point across, and it was either get Piper over or later on to get somebody else's issue over with him being the instigator in the thing. Well, now they've just popped these out every time they want to start something. Oh, we'll have a talk show. So Kevin Owens has the KO show, and he brings Seth Rollins out. And Damien Priest comes out and tells them both off. And then we have a match with Damien Priest against Kevin Owens. And I'm skipping over a lot of this, folks, because even though I like a lot of these people, in this environment and the way that they're presented and the things that they're asked to do and say, it's much less interesting than it sounds when I'm reading it. And Damien Priest is another guy in NXT. We said, boy, he looks great. He has a man's voice. He's good size. He's in shape. His work style is different. It catches your eye. He seemed to be able to be serious, and he still looks great. He's got nice gear. He's in great shape and does the promo. But they only had the barest bit of a match here because in the WWE, the matches are the least important thing behind not only the promos. I can't even say promos. They're not doing wrestling promos. They're doing dramatic skits and miniature plays. And once you get through those, as well as the interminable entrances, they end up having 4-minute matches. So they had a bit of a match. Owens got some heat. Damien Priest bowed up and fought back, and Owens bailed out to the floor, and Priest followed and got super kicked. And then Owens came off with a splash off the apron onto the floor. Looked like it killed him as well as Damien Priest. They go to the break. When they came back, Priest is already making his comeback 3 minutes later from that deadly move. And then they do some shit, boom, 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 and a couple of 2 counts, and they're trying. They had so little time, it wasn't a match. It was all finish after the break. And then finally, Owens went down selling his leg. The referee called for the trainer. Priest walks over to look, and Owens jumps up and hits a stunner, 1, 2, 3. He was faking. He was playing possum. Here you go. The Alpha Academy had their graduation ceremony. Otis and Gable had bright red gowns on. Actually, it was more like orange prisoner on the side of the road type of colors. And then Matt Riddle comes out in a green, blue, yellow, and orange gown and gave a speech. But Orton jumped in the ring and RKO'd Gable, and they stole the cap and gowns, the graduation cap and gowns from Alpha Academy. This is where I thought the mushrooms are kicking in. I look like Woody Harrelson in that scene from The People Against Larry Flint in the courtroom. So then I was about to give up, and here came Vince and Austin Theory in the fucking office. And I was, oh boy. I was watching TV here, so I didn't have the closed captioning on YouTube. I don't know if they figured Vince out this time, but I can't tell if Austin Theory can talk or not with this material and the way he's being produced. It's so goofy. But Vince was telling him there is no half victory because he'd said, well, last time, I didn't beat Finn Balor, but I beat him up afterwards. Kind of like a half victory. There is no half victory. And he wants Austin Theory to beat Finn Balor tonight and then beat him up afterwards, or Vince himself is going to beat Austin Theory up. And then Vince starts telling him what he's going to do to him. I'm going to beat you up and break your nose. I'm going to spread your teeth on the other side of your face, and you'll be covered in blood and snot and broken teeth, and then I'm going to take a selfie of you and send it to your mother. And this, again, as we just talked about, for Vince McMahon, for Mr. McMahon from 20 years ago, he could have carried this off. You would have believed that he was going to do it. He would have been standing up at full height, looking down his nose at somebody with that fucking growl that he used to have, that booming voice. And you might have believed it, but now he's 78 years old or whatever, and he's mumbling and he's talking across the desk at this guy that's trying to act horrified and scared that this guy's going to beat him up. It sounds about like, or it looked about like it sounds. However, they did then have Finn Balor against Austin Theory, Brian. And by the way, before when the bell rang for that match, we were already an hour and 20 minutes into this program. John Cena's only advantage over Austin Theory at this point in both of their careers was John Cena was a better promo. I saw them both at the same age, at the same time. I'm sure John Cena as a human being is probably more or was more mature and developed than Austin Theory because he was that way. He was a fucking mature, responsible person even then, but Austin Theory is better at everything else at this stage of the game than John Cena was, and I saw both of them. I mean, again, this was a WWE TV match. They didn't give them very much time, and the people, they don't react to a lot of these matches because they're trained not to. This is what they have to sit through to get to the fucking entrances and the dramatic plays. But everything in this match was great. There was no mistakes. But not only that, Theory did not look out of place working with Finn Balor. Again, the body language, the conditioning, the little things, the timing, the way he moves around. He's got it. And finally, he hit his finish on Finn Balor. Boom, 1, 2, 3. They know how to get people over, even if they don't give them the matches. They can call the finishes. And then he got on him after that and gave him another finish, but there was no bell. The referee had disappeared. No referees, no bell. It was sports entertainment heat. But he got heat on him and then took a selfie and left. So again, and that was flat, a selfie and leave. And the guy, there should have been people out there bullshit over what he had done and people trying to pull him off the guy and bell ringing and some chaos, but he takes a selfie of poor Finn Balor and leaves. But again, Theory is almost flawless. But if I say flawless Austin Theory, then Vince will nickname him Fat. And by the way, poor Rhea Ripley. We mentioned that Rhea Ripley not only is the hottest woman on the fucking entire roster, she's a goddamn brand new multi-million-dollar mainstream WrestleMania main event talent and should be an action movie star. Just that. But on this program, she came out and got berated by Carmella and Queen Zelina, then had the shit kicked out of her by her cosplaying delinquent little sister Nikki Ass, and was left laying broke, busted, and disgusted. So Rhea Ripley is now selling for little orphan Fanny on the program. Those mushrooms. And then he continues to be almost ready for television. What is he, 7 foot what? He's 300 and however many pounds. I didn't hear the announcers constantly talking about almost his height and weight, so they should be, because they had plenty of time. He faced off against Reggie. Brian, you remember Reggie, the 5'6" former Cirque du Soleil acrobat.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
Oh, God. So Omos is there at 7'6", and Reggie's 5'6". And right before the bell rings, a bunch of the 24/7 idiots ran through the ring, including in between Omos's legs. And that distracted him, so Reggie came off the top, but almost caught him in a choke slam. Boom, 1, 2, 3. So thanks for coming.
This show sounds awful.
It's brutal. It has the stench of grisly death on it. Then Maurice, the Miz's wife.
All right.
Not Maurice Gibb of the Bee Gees, but Maurice Miz.
Two different spellings. That's Maurice, not Maurice.
All right. Well, Maurice was in the ring on Raw and called out Edge and Beth Phoenix for another long promo segment where Edge ended up beating up Miz, but Maurice had knocked out Beth Phoenix with her purse from behind. And then, as all good criminals do, Miz and Maurice left, but stopped in the back so that they could stand there and mug for the camera, opening the purse and pulling the brick out of the purse and showing it to everybody. Oh, God damn it. You don't. The heel drops the purse on the way out, and the referee picks it up and discovers it, or the babyface that is helping the person who's been knocked out picks it up and discovers that it had a brick in it. The criminals don't perpetrate the crime and then stand there stock still motionless in front of a television camera and show the weapon. Then they had an 8-man tag, the Street Profits and the Mysterios against Ziggler, Rude, Apollo Crews, and Commander Sneeze. Then, the best thing, honestly, on any wrestling television program from any company that I had to sit through this week followed that. And imagine this, it was about Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. Not only did they have Lashley, it was a Skype clip. It was a clip from Corey Graves' podcast. And it's video of him on Skype from, I guess, his house or wherever the fuck he was. And he's talking about Brock Lesnar, and it sounded real. It wasn't written. It was from a podcast. It was something that Bobby Lashley would say. He welcomes Brock being a beast. He welcomes Brock being the physical specimen that he is. That challenges him. He likes that because of his years in competition. He sounded natural. This sounded real. It put his opponent over and still got him over more than anything that they've had him saying in all this scripted bullshit. And then they go into a package. Brian, you got to see this. And anybody who didn't see it, look it up from Raw on what was the date? January 17th. Okay. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley package. It was a history package. It was with the NFL voiceover. May have been the NFL voiceover guy. They spent some money on this and a tremendous production editing job. They had Brock's history, historical footage all the way back of him in high school, college wrestling, the UFC. They told his story. They made him look unstoppable. And his exploits in WWE. Then they went and built Lashley, his amateur background, him being the Armed Forces champion, pictures of him in his uniform, clips of him in Bellator. This was the most sports-like thing they have ever done. I can't wait to see this match. If you want to see how to build a world title match or two real contenders, champion and challenger, this is it. It was perfect pro wrestling, and it was completely out of place on this program. Without the pro wrestling highlights, this package would have worked on a UFC broadcast. Everything about it. The guys, what they said, what they did, the whole 9 yards. You couldn't differentiate between these two guys are going to fight and these two guys are going to have a worked wrestling match by just watching this and listening to this. That's the idea. That's the goal. They can do this. They just don't. That was the most impressive thing that I've seen in a long time on a wrestling program, and it looked network quality.
And it was serious. I mean, it's like Punk and MJF. There's one segment you could rely on that show that won't really insult you. It'll get somewhere. It'll make you anticipate seeing something. And then the very next thing, I don't even know what was next on Raw, but with AEW, the next thing will just be so counterproductive. You're like, maybe I don't need to see this.
You called it and also the main event is Bobby Lashley against Seth Rollins. We're going to get to that in a second. But after that package, guess what they followed it with?
I don't know.
Alexa Bliss in her psychiatrist's office.
I didn't know that.
Last week, she apparently flipped out and trashed the place and broke a bunch of stuff. And now she's back, and the doctor, who's obviously phony and not a real doctor, either an actor they've hired or maybe one of the indie guys can cut a decent promo. But he said, well, we're back and we have fewer breakable things this week, Alexa. And they did a B-movie scene. And I'll tell you what, Alexa Bliss would be great in a horror movie. She's a heck of a little actress. She's got all kinds of personality. She sucks on a wrestling program because she's big as a hiccup. And this is fucking obviously phony. And then, and she does more of her spooky shit. And then they come out of that and they send Lashley to the ring. They just said, for anybody who hadn't been paying attention for the last 20 years, they did a package that makes you think, wow, those guys are serious and they're athletes. And this is a legitimate thing you can look up to, this wrestling stuff. And then here's this fucking bleach blonde little girl that's possessed by the doll of the devil and with a fake psychiatrist. And then, and here's one of those badasses going to the ring. I get whiplash from snapping my head back and forth between the sublime and the ridiculous. So, after 2 hours and 45 minutes of this fucking program, where there was a decent little exhibition of wrestling between Austin Theory and Finn Balor, we finally get Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins after that package, and we might be interested in Lashley. And Rollins, he can work when they let him, but the bell rings, 15 minutes is on the air. And I'm not sure about booking this to begin with because Seth has Reigns at the Rumble. Lashley has Brock. What's the upside here? Lashley needs to be a beast, but Seth can't just be a Super Ball because he's going to be facing the fucking head of the table. So how are they going to work this? Because Seth has to make Lashley a monster, but has to somehow still be capable in the people's eyes of standing up to Roman Reigns. And within 2 minutes, they went to break. So I don't even know what the fuck. They come back from the break. They got less than 10 minutes on the air. And while they had gone to break with Rollins down, now Rollins is getting heat on Lashley's leg. And Lashley is having to sell down and mostly immobile. And I believe I've mentioned how that's the worst thing that you can do to a beast or a monster is have them down on their back and immobile. And he spent a long time in a leg hold. And this was either a clash of styles or just the wrong kind of match to have for Bobby Lashley. And if it was an issue, don't give him so much time. If you didn't want him to have any time, even though they were barely there to begin with, but on this fucking program, I'd have rather seen 5 minutes of action than Lashley selling a fucking leg lock on his back like a turtle. They just built him as a monster, and also he's a shooter and a Bellator fighter, and Seth Rollins is out wrestling him. So, and then he was immobile and a half crab for a while. And I zoned out for a bit. And then Lashley made a nice comeback, hit some of his big moves. They went back and forth. Rollins hit a pedigree for a 2 count. Lashley was way too vulnerable here in this with a big match with Brock coming up. And then Lashley, they go to the top rope, and of course they've got to struggle, and Lashley belly to bellies Rollins off the top rope. Threw him halfway across the fucking ring. There was no cover. He belly to bellies Seth Rollins off the top rope halfway across the ring. Both of them lay there selling for 5 seconds. And then Shelton and Cedric come out and pull Lashley to the floor. And by the time they hit him the first time, the bell is ringing DQ. Oh, God damn it. A horrible finish out of nowhere. Then Shelton and Cedric are beating on Lashley in front of MVP, who has to stand there and yeah, hey, you boys quit that. They buried him. I know he's a manager now, and also he's had some type of injury, which I believe is a real life injury and they've worked it in, but he's got a cane in his hand and he's a man and he's an ex-wrestler. And he's having to watch Cedric and Shelton beat up Lashley while Rollins recuperates from the big belly to belly, the DQ out of nowhere. Then Lashley gets up. And Brian, do you remember what he did last week, the last time that they interrupted one of his matches? And he beat up both Cedric and Shelton single-handed on the floor and left them laying?
I remember you saying that, yeah.
He did it again. So again, they think, okay, we'll let Lashley be out-wrestled by a guy with, and I mean, let's face it, since they've called attention to Brock and Lashley's shooter backgrounds, Seth don't have one. So we're going to have Lashley, our shooter, out-wrestled. Then we're going to do a cheap DQ and a short match. Then he's going to kick the shit out of the guys he kicked the shit out of last week to get some of his heat back. But meanwhile, the Usos ran out and Rollins stood up to watch Lashley get the shit kicked out of him. And the Usos super kicked Rollins and knocked him out. So I wrote, what is happening here? And that's the way they went off the air on 3 hours of Raw. So now I want to see Lashley and Brock less than I did after the package.
Yeah, it's a show that doesn't make you ever want to tune in again. Because that happens every time I make the mistake of watching it again.
And like I said, you know, the package was great and you get to see a little bit of theory, but I don't have the first goddamn clue what they're thinking with these guys. And everybody's just mad at everybody whenever it's convenient. And everybody runs in and just does whatever. And the matches are afterthoughts and the finishes are, these aren't dusty finishes or cheap finishes or fuck finishes. These are just lazy booking, get out of it finishes. I don't know what's going on, Brian.
Well, what do you feel like doing after watching it? Do you feel like exercising or shaving your balls? I'm not sure.
No, I don't know what's going on. So I stay in a state of confusion. But thankfully, we have a new sponsor here on the program that can keep me confused whenever I need it. Folks, our new sponsor, the fine friends that we've got at IOLO. That's IOLO.com. And you're saying to yourself, well, what the heck does that mean there, Jim? Well, I'll tell you. I don't know. All I do know is that they're asking a lot of questions here at IOLO. Did you know, Brian, that making your computer run faster can also make it more private and secure? Did you know? Were you aware of that?
Sounds logical, sure.
Well, that's because your computer is constantly being slowed down by unwanted apps, tracking apps that follow you around the web. Even viruses and malware can slow you down. Did you know that you had these people following you all around the web as you made your way around the web? There are people following you. They're wearing dark glasses and dark clothing, and they're trying to stay in the shadows, but they're tracking your ass. And that's not all, Brian. Social sites and criminals alike. Criminals, no good nicks, are cashing in on personal data that they collect from you on the internet. Hey, folks, I'm not trying to scare you, but this is fucking dangerous. But fortunately, there are simple steps that you can take to protect your privacy and identity. And I was not aware of this until the folks at IOLO told me. Usually, I would just change my name and use one of my 3 or 4 Social Security cards. But you can't just do something simple like that anymore. Brian, you gotta be high tech with this stuff. For example, what do you get when you type "why is my" into Google? What do you get?
What do you get when you type what?
Why is my? The words, when you type "why is my" into Google, I usually get dick drooping,
what?
Wife a bitch. But one of the first autocomplete options when you type "why is my" into Google, it'll come up "computer so slow," because that's the question that thousands of PC users ask every day. So it's fair to say that performance lag is a significant complaint. I'm sure you've had people complain about your performance lagging.
Never.
Well, thousands of PC users ask it every day. Type "why is my" into Google and see what you come up with. Speed up, secure, and simplify your digital life with Iolo's all-in-one Windows optimization, antivirus, and online privacy software suite called System Mechanic Ultimate Defense, or SMUD.
That sounds good for you.
That's what I need. I'm telling you what, because I need sped up, I need security, I need simplification. And if I knew what all this other shit was, I'd need it too. Folks, if you have multiple PCs at home, movie phones, or move phones, or movie phones, I don't know if that's a misprint or not. Hello, this is Movie Phone. What movie would you like to see? Tablets and smart TVs, if you have all of these things in your home, you probably are trying to manage all this yourself, and who wants to do that? Iolo's System Mechanic Ultimate Defense, SMUD, comes with a tech support plan that covers all of your internet-connected devices whenever you have a tech issue. You make one phone call and Iolo will fix your issue immediately, any time of the day or night. That's right, whenever you have a technical issue. Say your cable TV goes out, refrigerator's not running, the fucking microwave blinks out on you, and they'll fix it over the phone, right?
They will help you right away with your SMUD issues.
But it works for all the technical things in the house, right? All the things you plug in, I guess. Telephones, if you got a telegraph machine, they'll give you
I don't know about
all
that.
kinds of advice.
I don't know about that.
But anyway, folks, if you're concerned about your online footprint, and having your footprints or your fingerprints online can be very, very dangerous to your security. If you're concerned about computer vulnerabilities, you want the 24/7 live tech support located right here in the US of A. Well, then get SMUD from Iolo. That's System Mechanic Ultimate Defense. And right now, don't wait, because for one thing, companies like Dell, Best Buy, Lenovo, Yahoo, and Amazon resell SMUD because they trust its reputation. And if these people will sell SMUD out in the open, I'm not talking about dealing it out of a raincoat in a back alley somewhere, selling it right out in the open. You know it must be a quality product that does something that you're going to need. I don't know what, but you're going to fucking need this. So right now, don't wait. Go to Iolo, that's IOLO.com, and use the code JCE, and you will save 60% on SMUD and get 30 days of live tech support for free. Iolo, IOLO.com. Use the code JCE, 60% off the SMUD defense system and 30 days of live tech support. Will you need the tech support every single day? You'll have it there. They'll give it to you. But boy, you'd have to be a fucking bonehead to need it every day. Ask all your questions at one time. But they're still going to be nice to you, and they'll be there for you. What does the System Mechanic Ultimate Defense System do for you, Brian, you're asking?
Yeah.
I'm still wondering.
Me too.
It maximizes processor power, unleashes internet speed, increases drive speed, and protects against all kinds of shit. And invasions and social sites and criminals alike. It'll protect you from everybody. We're not trying to scare you people. This shit's something to worry about.
All right, that's Iolo and SMUD.